Hallo zusammen und herzlich willkommen zu meinem Podcast Die Leichtigkeit der Kunst. Mein Name ist Claudia Linzel und ich freue mich sehr, euch heute aus dem lichtdurchfluteten Norden Europas zu begrüßen. Aus Helsinki, inmitten von Kunst, Natur und leisen Fragen. Was geschieht, wenn eine Stimme nicht laut wird, sondern still? Wenn Verbindung nicht durch Worte entsteht, sondern durch Achtsamkeit. Wenn Kunst nicht drängt, sondern einlädt. In einer Zeit, in der Sichtbarkeit zählt, Lautstärke belohnt wird und Geschwindigkeit zur Währung geworden ist, da braucht es Räume, die anders sind. Räume für Wahrnehmung, für Gegenwärtigkeit, für ein kollektives Innehalten. Die finnische Künstlerin Nina Backman hat solche Räume geschaffen. Mit ihrem Silence Project, ihren Silence Meals, ihrer Initiative A Million Trees to Finland und ihrem neuen Projekt The Green Train. Ihre Kunst berührt, leise, konsequent, durchaus politisch. Sie verbindet Performances mit ökologischer Verantwortung, gesellschaftliche Prozesse mit poetischem Denken und sie stellt eine Frage, die uns alle betrifft. Wie wollen wir leben, miteinander in dieser Welt? Heute also ein Gespräch zwischen Sprachen, zwischen Seen, zwischen Menschen auf Deutsch und Englisch aus Helsinki mit Nina Backman. Liebe Nina, so schön, dass ich mit dir nach Helsinki reisen darf und ich mehr durch dich über die finnische Kultur kennenlernen darf. Was bedeutet Stille für dich, jenseits der Lautstärke? What does silence mean to you?
Well, I think, first of all, it's something very personal, isn't it? I think it means different things to different people and it means different things at different time. And I think for an artistic project like the Silence Project, it's a fantastic topic because it has the bliss in one end and the horror on the other end. It has kind of all the possible layers, I think, in it. And for me, as a founder of the Silent Project, I have looked into the Nordic silence and very much also the tradition of everyone's right, which allows people free access to nature. And of course, we don't have so many people in Finland as well, so it's easier to experience silence. But I do think it's a big part of the Finnish culture.
You were born in Helsinki?
Yes, I was born in Helsinki and I left already in 1997 because I thought it was so quiet. So then 20 years later, I returned to this topic because I understood that it's such an important part of my artistic practice and important for me as a personally, but also a big part of my heritage.
You're an artist, performer, curator. Where did your path into art begin?
Where did I start? Well, to be honest, I think I have been doing art always. I went to Steiner School, which was very strong in art. And I originally worked on films and I was in a sort of visual culture and then went to study in England where I studied performance design. And it was in England really where I started to get very interested of working as an individual artist because I just felt the need to say something. And when I came to Berlin, that's really where I started to work as an independent artist. And my curatorial work is really via the Silent Project, which I founded in 2013. So I'm a curator in my own projects.
At which school have you been in England?
I went to school called the Liverpool Institute for the Performance Art, which was founded by Paul McCartney in Liverpool. It was set in the old school where Paul McCartney and John Lennon used to go. And it was supposed to be a kind of new type of school where different routes would work together and where you would have the means and equipment to really do anything you wanted. And big theaters and big music studios and also the possibility to study fine art with John Moss University and just, it was open for 24 hours and it was fantastic. It really was a great experience.
Why do you want to go there?
Because I was very interested of this interdisciplinary approach. And I felt that there was no such schools in Finland where you could really try a little bit of everything. Like you would be a bit more free to try things out. And then I heard about it and read about it, and I wanted to go. And also I wanted to leave Finland. I wanted to go to England, and I wanted to, just be a little bit more international, I suppose.
What was so interesting in England that you decided to go there?
Well, I felt like England was really, I do think England is, especially at that time, London especially, and also Liverpool, were very much of a world cities. Like you felt you were in the world. Like it was so many people from different cultures and all operating there, and it felt like all the possibilities were there.
And was it always a good feeling? You came from the nature, from the silent Finland.
Yes, I was quite shocked, of course, when I came. It was very different from where I came from. Yes, it was very different, and it was quite a shock. I was quite overwhelmed at the beginning. But I really fell in love with it, I have to say.
And then you came to Berlin.
Then I came to Berlin, yes, because I was in love with a German man and was not ready to go to Finland yet. And then I came here. And I love Berlin as well, for sure. It was very different then, of course, from London. I think Berlin for me was always more of a European city.
And why do you decide to go back to Finland or to reconnect with your home country?
Because I just realized that, I think people that leave their country maybe have similar experiences, but you kind of become more Finnish, or at least I did, when I was in other country than when I was there. And so I just became very interested of my own roots and my cultural heritage and the silence. And I think this had also something to do with having children, having the need to really teach your children, where this part of the culture come from and be connected to your roots. Well, I think artists are quite local. I think you can't just get away with where you come from. It's just so rooted in you.
Are your parents also artists?
Well, my mother studied art, yes, but she didn't at the end work as an artist.
Is it like a connect between you and your mother?
Well, I don't know if you can quite say it like that, but my family is full of artists, and specifically, I think, writers and musicians. So it was always there.
First time we both met was in a literature club in Helsinki.
Yes, it was very important for me that the Silence Meal started in the Finnish Literature Society's place, because it's so historically important in terms of Finnish literature. It really is literally the birthplace for Finnish literature. And it was started because the intellectuals and the artists at that time, because this was the time before Finland was independent, were worried that the Finnish language will disappear or will not last. And so this is why it was founded originally. And Kati Mikkola, the director that we were working with, or who organized this project with us, is the first female head in its history, which I thought was also quite remarkable. And I sold one of my work there a year ago, and that's where I visited for the first time. And I also saw the archives. And there's one whole section which is about silence. And it just made a profound effect on me, or touched me really, because I thought how important it is to have this kind of cultural library and heritage, in terms of also to our own identity, like how important it really is and how easily it can disappear.
What do you find out personally when you get in touch with the Finnish literature and the roots?
Well, one sort of personal story maybe is that from my father's side of the family, which are Finnish-Swedish, there is a well-known writer called Sakarias Topelius, who was also part of this movement before Finland became independent, and who was Swedish-speaking Finn, but who it was very important for him to save the Finnish language. And so one sort of interesting connection that I found, for instance, through him was that he started the Natural Society in Finland. So there was a real connection to nature via him. And I have not seen the research material that they have on silence, for instance, but I am planning on going and seeing that. just to see what is there. Is there really such thing as Nordic silence, which is different from others? I don't know. But it's something that we'll want to find out.
Maybe it's quite interesting for our listeners to get informed a bit about the Finnish history and the attitude of life.
Well, I mean, Finland was for many years, I think we were 600 or 700 years under Sweden, and then a little bit over 100 under Russia. And there was a civil war as well. And I think we have a lot of sympathy for Ukrainians, for instance, fighting the impossible war. And I think Finland can really understand that as someone being a small country and can really appreciate of being an independent country. We can be very lucky to be independent.
In the literature club, I read something about Sisu and Kalevala.
So Kalevala is an important book for Finnish people, because it's first of all written in Finnish language, and it's a national epic from Finland, and it was compiled by Elias Lönnrot in the 19th century from Finnish oral folklore and mythology. And Kalevala is a poetic work of around 50 songs or poems, and they are recounting the creation myth, heroic tales, and really the relationship between people and nature. And it's important also because it played a key role in shaping Finnish national identity and inspiring the cultural revival. And you can say that it led to independence as well. A book we all read in school and we all know about it. And if you look into the company names in Finland, you see it everywhere. It's a very important book for Finnish people. And you ask about the word Sisu. I think it lives in the Finnish culture strongly, the Sisu. And maybe that is to do with being a small country that has really had to fight for its independence and had to fight for its survival. And also just to be in a country that has such a extreme weather. It kind of puts things in perspective. It really does.
And how we can transform it to our daily life?
Well, I think like all old stories, I mean, good stories, they work in every time. Like, for instance, the way I explore a story of Aino, it's a very classic, tragic story of a young woman who is forced to marry a very powerful man in the Kalevala book, Vereinnahmen. And she's a good girl and she's a virgin, but she doesn't want to marry an old man. And so in the story, she drowned herself. But there is a different version of the same story, which for me was interesting because, first of all, she said no. She didn't kind of accept her fate, which I thought was interesting. And she was not passive. But also in terms of the drowning, actually, in the second story, she doesn't drown. It's more about how she transformed herself into a different being and then is no longer recognized. And I think these topics of belonging and your identity and the story of a woman as well, what you're allowed to do and what not, and all these societal norms, traditions, etc. I mean, they very much live in our culture always.
Which role does art plays in Finnish culture?
I think a very important role. I mean, I don't know what Finnish culture would be without it. I mean, really, what would any country be without its culture and stories?
I mean, is there a strong support by government?
Yes. I think Nordic countries generally support the art more generously than in other countries. And there is such thing as artist salary as well, which is quite unusual. But as well as everywhere at the moment, I mean, all these culture budgets are being cut at the moment. So this is also happening in Finland. But I think generally speaking, the art is quite well supported in Nordic countries, or at least it was.
We had our silence meal.
Yes.
Part of Silence Project.
Yes.
What is the Silence Project?
So Silence Project is something I started in 2013. And it started first as my own personal project because I was very interested of this topic. And then I realized that it's such a big topic that it should really have a whole program and an exhibition and programs for schools and of course the silence meal. And so I wrote such program and then I invited another artist to take part and bring their experience on silence. And this is how it started. So it was an exhibition program, and I mean, still is exhibition program. And the silence meal was something that I created as a pre-opening because I didn't want to talk. It didn't feel right to talk about the silence, but I felt better to have an invited guest and the artist, and then have a great meal and then be surrounded by the artwork. And in this way, allow people to have their own experience instead of telling them. And then this silence meal then became also part of the exhibition. So the Tracy stayed in the show, and I did recordings and all kind of work then for that, which was then exhibited also in the exhibition. And so it just became a part of the silent project. And with the first show, Silent Space Intensified Integrities, group exhibition went around for 6 years into different museums and places. And it was wonderful. And then I bought a new show, and we opened in 2019 called Mind the Gap, Silence and Masculinity. But then the corona came. And then I thought that if we are talking about silence, and if we are talking about the importance of everyone's right, and then I felt like we had to do something concrete. And this is when I started A Million Trees to Finland, the environmental part of the project, which in a way is a continuation of the silent project, because we're literally creating more silence.
What happens when nothing happens?
What happens, but I don't think there is such things. I think quite a lot happens.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Yes. But I think the point is that it's something very personal, isn't it? And I also wanted to take the focus away from the artist a little bit. So I think in a silence meal is not so much about the artist. I think it's more about the audience, really. It's like the artist becomes the observer and the guest, in a way, become the performer.
Would you like to describe the setting a bit?
Yes, it's a very simple setting. It is usually around 24 strangers brought together in a beautiful meal, which is also very beautifully set always. And I always serve very good food. So I work with a lot of good chefs. Like we had the Sega catering in Finland. And then I serve 3 or 4 course meal. And I see very much my own role as a kind of almost like a conductor, in the sense that, because what my job really is to do is to see that there is the experience of experiencing silence, because otherwise it would be just people eating. So I think it's very important to have the space in between.
Is it important that we get in touch with Finnish stuff like glasses from Itala and the tableware from
Marimekko, yeah. Well, actually, when we did the silence meal for the very first time, we were in Hiab, which was also a place that we visited now. And the reason I had such a fancy cutlery then was because I called Itala Fiskos and asked them to give me some cutlery, because we didn't have any. So it was really because of that. But yeah, so is it important that it's always Finnish? Maybe not, it's not always. But I think it suited the silence meal also quite well. I also like that it's beautiful and beautifully set. Yeah.
It was so interesting because the setting was a bit more loud because of all the flowers and the colors on the tableware.
Yeah.
But the environment was silent. But what do you observe?
Well, I think for me, like the first realization always is like these little things, such as when you pour water in the glass in silence, it sounds like a waterfall. And all these sound that you don't normally pay any attention to. Or how it sounds with all the music of the silence, in a way,
of the
with all the
and
clinging and the eating, which is something that you don't pay ever otherwise any attention to. Also, I think the way you experience time changes. I mean, it was more than 2 hours, and so it didn't feel that long, not to me at least.
To me, mm-hmm.
Yeah. And observe, I think I thought about that quite often, like what are you allowed to see and what not? Because I feel like it's also very intimate. So I think I have been doing it for 10 years now, more than 10 years. So, you do come quite sensitive towards people because you see things, of course. But I think it's also polite not to see too much, just to give space to people. Do you see what I mean?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. And then I call it a performance also because when I started, I will not stop. So I just let it go however it does. And you saw yourself, sometimes people act out and start doing things quite spontaneously.
Do you think the people feel secure?
I like to think that they would, yes. I feel that's also part of my being there, so that they are kind of following this. I think that it needs to have some kind of framework and a certain rhythm. I hope they feel safe, but I don't know. You have to ask the people, I guess. You have to ask yourself. Did you feel safe?
Me, yes, for sure. I had the luck that I sat just at the top of the table.
Yeah.
And I could see everyone.
Oh, yeah, true. You were opposite to me.
Yes, and I was able to get in contact with everyone.
Yeah.
I had not to move my whole body.
Yeah.
And I was questioning myself, is silence in every language the same meaning? As a German, I say Stille.
Yeah.
And Stille for me means I have to be very careful with my fork and my knife.
Right.
I wanted to be very silent with my whole body.
Yeah.
Is silence in every language the same meaning?
I'm sure there are cultural differences, but for me, I see more different personalities. And also it's always very different because it depends on the atmosphere and how the people which are taking part, how do they come together? And so it's always very different, I would say. And people react and act in a very different way. You have always, not always, but sometimes people that have the need to do something. Mm-hmm. Even I'm not asking anybody to do anything. It's not like a challenge. It's really there to experience what happens when you have this experience without talking.
Do you think people need a choreography?
Well, maybe, but I also try to keep it very simple because I don't want to give too many rules. The only rule really that I give is I'm asking people not to talk. And so far, no one did.
How do you think about smiling?
Well, people can smile. Once I had a silence me where half of the table were laughing and half were very serious, like really laughing, like hysterically laughing. It was like spreading like a wild fire. Yeah, so it can happen. Some people are funny even in silence.
Do you think that's because they feel secure or insecure?
I think in this particular one, there was a man who was just incredibly funny. Honestly, he was so funny. And he was funny, obviously, in silence as well.
And in silence, do you think we find out like the alpha animals?
Well, I think that when you sit in silence, as we do with maybe 24 people, and people don't know really who anybody is, your body language also calms down. And so big personalities, which are maybe used to getting more attention, I do think it breaks the hierarchies. And the body language alone also affects that. So it can make someone, it does change the setup.
We were also together at Helsinki Biennial.
Well, I thought it was wonderful. I enjoyed it very much. I recommend everyone to go there and spend a whole day there.
What is the magic of this Vallisaari island?
I think the magic of the Vallisaari island, what makes it also a little bit more interesting, I think, well, half of the island is still closed. You can't go there because it has been in some military used. And you also see there that it was quite wild, the nature there also, and not so manicured. And what I also thought was interesting that they had some plants and trees there, which were important, I think, by the Russians, maybe over 100 years ago. So the plants and trees that were there were also a little bit different. There were some plants that you don't see in any other island. What I would say, it was very gentle, but what it made me think, and that may have nothing to do with what the aim was, but every time I go to Finland and every time I spend a little bit more time in there, I just become more aware of the nature and the weather because it's very extreme. And it always is a reminder that you are small and the nature is big. And this is also the feeling that I got when I was in the island as well, that we are really just very small. I feel personally that the Nordic countries don't have such a high hierarchies somehow, not so much. And I think people generally are not so very important about themselves. There is no such, it's also in the language like that. There is no, as in German you would say do or see. It doesn't really exist. And I think there's also much less pressure there somehow. It's not so important that you have to be something really unusual in a way. And I sometimes think about that, why it is like that. And I think that a big part of that is also the really hard condition in terms of the weather and the nature in a way. It's just that you're just every day reminded that you are small and the nature is big.
So despite of that and the Silence Project, what does shelter means to you?
Shelter. Home.
Home.
Yeah.
Where is home?
I think a home is wherever you feel comfortable with. Can be anywhere. I think it's also how you connect it to yourself. I think you carry your home with you also, always.
We also plant a tree together, or I think
we
10
did.
10
yes,
trees.
yes, yes, we did. I think everyone should plant a tree. I mean, it sounds so, simple and small and irrelevant maybe, but it's such a profound experience to do that. To really just get a shovel and have a tree and plant it and take care of it.
What does it mean to plant a tree? It's not just that you put a tree into the earth. What does it really mean to you?
Well, I think for me, after the Silent Project, because I think I started as a visual artist and I still do that. Now I'm playing around with my collages and pour art and so on. But I am going away from material, I think. Every year a little bit more. And stuff, unnecessary stuff. And so I decided that I try to work in the immaterial way as much as I can. And if I'm going to have some material, then there must be plants or trees or something that is living and something that is also planted in the place where it's permanently or as permanently as it can be, rather than set in a gallery space where it dies, after a while. So the environmental part of the Silent Project really is to plant trees because it's important for the environment. But also I view it as an artistic practice, really. And it's quite technical.
And what do the Finnish government say or the Helsinki government say when you say, I come with 10 people from all over the world and we wanted to plant a tree?
I mean, it took some persuasion, I think, but that I plant also these mini metsas, which are there to support the biodiversity, and I have done 6 of them. And that was not my mini forest where we went. It was a Helsinki park. They just gave us the permission to plant some there. But I hope they understood. I mean, you tell me, it was a good experience, right?
For sure. Yeah.
And now you have a tree in Finland.
Yeah, together with some very lovely people. And I won't forget them.
Yeah. And I mean, it's quite hardcore to plant a tree. It takes some physical power to do that. I mean, we had quite a big trees as well. Yes, I think everyone should do that. And I think there are countries where school children don't graduate and they plant a tree.
What is the green train meaning?
This is the new project, which I've been working for quite a long time already, because it was this idea to bring environmental project to train. And the first pilot project is happening the 21st of October, and together with the European Sleeper. It's a night train, and it goes from Berlin to Amsterdam, stops in Prague and Brussels. And Life Terra is involved as well. And what it's about is to use the train line to create an environmental project across Europe and to invite people to plant trees and also to plant our mini metsas and to have talks and to have an exhibition as well. and to do something for our environment. Because, Europe is quite lucky to have all these train lines. And I thought that would be a perfect conceptual frame to bring this environmental project, because there are quite a lot of differences.
And the people inside the train, who are they?
Well, they will be train travelers, of course, and we have been given 3 cabins. It's a night train. So I will be inviting some friends to travel with us, and we'll be giving out trees in the train as well. And we have organized suitable places for planting.
And do you also ask spontaneously travelers?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. We have no idea how it will go, but it's happening.
And the trees, they're still in the train, or are they waiting?
They will be in train. We're giving out 10,000. You have to be quite specific. First of all, trees don't like to travel. And we can't put them all in a train either. But we choose then for each country kind of suitable trees. And so a certain amount will be given out then with the map where you can plant it. Because, in Finland it's quite easy because we have the everyone's right. So it's not so complicated to find places for planting. But in Europe it's a little bit more complicated because you can't just plant just anywhere. And also I want to make sure that they're taken care of. So I want to see them also in the next 10 years or 20 years. I want that they grow. And so a part of my own personal artwork is then to plant bigger trees. And this is then mapped out into a kind of digital map, and they're taken care of. So
you said every man's right? What is it?
Actually, it's called everyone's right. It was called every man's right. Mm-hmm. And the Finnish feminists changed it for everyone's right. Yeah. And this is a Nordic tradition.
What does it mean?
It means that if you come to my land, you can come to my land and you can spend time there, even if it's mine, if you take care of it. So in Finland, people share the rivers and the nature like that. And I think it's quite a radical tradition to have. In Sweden, for instance, is protected as a part of their cultural heritage. And I think Denmark doesn't have, it's a little bit less there. And Finland is famously, has a very generous every man's right. And so it's easy to go wild camping and so on.
How have your projects changed you?
I think I have become much more human loving. Yeah, I really do. I'm not saying that I wasn't before, but I think it makes you quite kind towards fellow humans when you sit with strangers in silence. Because you see that everybody is a little bit strange and everybody is a little bit insecure and everybody is a little bit funny, and which is fellow humans. So yeah, it made me, I think, more loving towards my fellow humans.
What does lightness mean to you?
Well, I guess it can mean so many things depending on the day. But
Today?
Okay, well, now that I'm sitting here with you and talking about my work, so thank you so much for wanting to talk with me, but I think you can consider yourself very lucky if you can do what really makes your heart sing.
And I want to say thank you for your time talking to me and for your invitation to Helsinki, to Finland.
Thank you so much.
Das war's für heute. Die nächste Folge erscheint in einer Woche. Und um sie nicht zu verpassen, folge der Die Leichtigkeit der Kunst gerne auf deiner Podcast-App. Wenn dir diese Folge gefallen hat und dir auch die weiteren Episoden zusagen, dann hinterlass doch gerne 5 Sternchen sowie eine wohlgesonnene Bewertung. Ich freue mich auch über Empfehlungen, Fragen, Kritik und natürlich auch weitere Themenvorschläge oder GesprächspartnerInnen. Dazu kannst du gerne die Social-Media-Kanäle von Die Leichtigkeit der Kunst nutzen oder eine E-Mail an folgende Adresse schreiben: info@dieleichtigkeitderkunst.de. Danke fürs Zuhören und tschüss bis zum nächsten Mal. Deine Claudia.